operation. You may fire when ready.
What?
Commence primary ignition.
Classic Star Wars.
Just so everybody knows. Well, welcome to what used to be Streaming Star Wars. It's now an entire network. This is Force Connect. Welcome to Force Connect on a Friday night. I'm Pete Fletcher, one of your hosts. I'm also joined, of course, by Chris Ryans and Nick Milkey. Boys, how are we doing on this beautiful, almost end of Friday evening? What's going on, guys?
Doing good. I'm just eager for 2022 to get it out of here so we can get 2023 started.
Awesome. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited for tonight. We've been talking for the last couple of weeks about this show and the stuff that we wanted to do. And we've got fun guests. We're going to take calls throughout the whole show. It's a new leaf, and it's, exciting. We end a year, we have new years, new starts, and the stuff that we're talking about tonight is a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You may have noticed if you're watching that new beginnings, new things going on. The ATG Cast podcast stream has converted into what we're calling Streaming Star Wars, which is essentially all three of the shows that you know and love from Nick and I and Chris around the galaxy will still be your sort of getting to know the people behind the fandom. Podcast of Wills is going to be your deep dive conversations. And of course, your Friday nights with Force Connect, hanging out with us, having a good time and talking all things Star Wars. One of the things that we want to talk about right up front is we have all kinds of new websites and Patreon addresses and YouTube addresses. Just FYI, just go to streamingstarwars.com. You can click to all of it, but we also have a new Patreon address. If you're a patron, thank you so much for being one and joining us. We're working on the program. We're going to do some cool stuff there. But patreon.com/streamingstarwars. The YouTube address is now youtube.com/@streamingstarwars. The Facebook page has not changed. That's still facebook.com/streamingstarwars. Nick opened up a TikTok for us. That should be interesting to see what we can possibly do with that. But
watch now as three old guys try to figure out how to use TikTok.
Yeah, you're gonna see. I think we're all gonna do the. I think
we'll be fine. We'll be fine. Don't worry. Gen X runs TikTok.
I think Chris committed to doing the Wednesday Adam dance by the end of the week. I'm not sure. Did you say you would do that? Yeah. All right.
I think all of a sudden he's having audio problems. What did you say?
I didn't hear you guys. I didn't hear you. But
it's not on.
But so you're gonna notice I threw the link to join us live into the chat already. We had been doing it as the second half of the show. We're going to take your calls throughout the night, and that's going to be the format moving forward. And speaking of tonight, we have an amazing show lined up. We have a very different format because we're reviewing the year. We're going and taking a look back. So we asked some of our social media friends to tell us what their favorite books, their favorite movie, live action stuff, favorite comic books, and favorite animation. And so we asked them what they liked, and then we're bringing in some experts to talk to us. We have Becca Benjamin from Tarkin's Top Shelf coming in to talk books. We have Kerwin from Father Son Galaxy joining us to talk animation. Heather Antos, the comic book editor, is going to join us with talking about comics, and James Reseal from Rebel Scum is going to be on a little bit later when we round it out, talking about all the live action stuff. And again, we're going to take your calls throughout the show, so jump in whenever you feel like you're inspired and we're hitting a topic that you're interested in. But before we go too much further, Nick, how was your holidays, man?
My holiday was fantastic. It was low key. It was exactly what, I want out of a good family holiday like that. Not a lot of drama. Me and my wife and my girls being home, not having to go anywhere. We got to chill out. My big girls got rock and roll guitars and drums, so we're practicing riffs and music nonstop. And the two youngest ones got hoverboards, so they're motionlessly just gliding through the house. Every time I come through a hallway, there's a kid just, rolling right by, and it's kind of weird, but kind of futuristic at the same time. So it's fantastic. I couldn't be more grateful for the time that we've gotten to spend together as a family, and then to wrap up a holiday on a holiday weekend like this with you guys.
That's awesome. How about you, Chris? Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah. I every holiday, I don't do the hustle and bustle. My mom and I hang out, we talk, we eat, and that's about it. And just enjoy each other's company. So that's pretty much
nice.
What I do. Got to hang out with the lady who bought me all my Star Wars stuff.
For sure. Did you get any good Star Wars Christmas gifts this year?
There's one that I got most recently, and that was earlier today from the Star Wars podcast. Ben stopped by and brought me a Lando figure.
Very nice. Very
from,
nice.
It's like from the Power of the Force. It's the Lando in the Skiff outfit. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
How about you, Nick? Did you get any Star Wars gifts?
I got my mother delivered to me on Christmas morning or Christmas Eve, whenever they came over. I got a collection of some Star Wars coffee mugs. I got a Mando mug, I got a yellow Mando and Grogu mug, and then I got this guy, which here's the thing with this mug.
What straw?
There's no way I can physically drink out of this mug. Like, it's not happening. But it's going to look very good sitting somewhere, back here behind me, or I'll just pretend like it's my face.
You can wear it. There you go.
Exactly.
I got various mugs and socks with Mandalorian and Grogu stuff on it. But my favorite thing that I got was, I already put it here, is I got a Lola from Obi-Wan Kenobi, the interactive one. And this thing is just this is so cool. It's like the right size. It has a little personality of its own. So that's my favorite little bit of Star Wars Christmas gifting that I got. But that's great. Nick, do you want to toast to our friends who are hanging out with us?
I do. That's my favorite part of the week. I see Brian and Jeff and Dale. I see, who else is here? I know there's other folks here. I see Bro Axiom in the chat. How about that? I do want to raise my glass, certainly to everybody who tunes in with us on a weekly basis. I certainly want to lift a glass to you, but I'm also going to throw our toast out this week, as we have hit on a little bit already with the changes for us with streaming Star Wars Network, with the adjustments we're making, the new stuff. I'm a big fan. I'm not necessarily a resolutions guy, but I love a new start. I love a new year, the chance to do some things different. And I'm excited for what's going to happen in the new year for the three of us, for this network, for the shows that we want to continue to improve upon. I mean, we have conversations all the time about what can we do better? How can we, bring more people in? I love, in one of our videos that we run, Christina Ariel talks about, the table being big and inviting people to come in and join us. And that's what we want the streaming Star Wars network to be. That's what we want our shows to be, is a place for the hardcore fans like us, but also the fans like our parents and our friends and our coworkers who are like, oh yeah, I like Star Wars. We want this to be a place where everybody can hang out and just have fun, because that's what Star Wars is. So I will raise my glass to our friends in the chat, and I will also raise it to a new year and a new streaming Star Wars network. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Happy Star Wars. Good stuff. To echo what Nick said, one of the things that we talk a lot about, that Nick and Chris and I, when we talk a lot about that sort of particular age of I don't want to say age, but sort of group of Star Wars fans, right? Because there is, I think one of the things that happens is, especially if, those of you who join us probably on a regular basis early on here are sort of our core fans, our core friends who've been with us forever. There's a really very specific dynamic that happens in social media online Star Wars conversation. It's a very specific audience. But at the end of the day, I find it really interesting. And Chris, I'll throw it to you, especially spending a lot of your time in the comic book store, and
Yeah.
the fans, the people who come in, the people who are the quote unquote regular fans, 25-year-olds who are spending all their time on social media. It's the people our age, the people not just our age. I mean, honestly, it's my son's age, 10, to my dad's age, 75, right? And everything in between. Tell me about sort of like the typical Star Wars fan that walks into the comic shop.
I would say, besides like sometimes you get like the, the parents with their, with their children, like the 5 and 6-year-olds. You'll see people there between like, I'm gonna say like early 30s to around my age, maybe a little older, maybe like 50, 51, something like that, or mid 50s, who are like the core of the people that would come into the shop, or the Star Wars fans that would come in. But I love it when like the 20 somethings come in. Some of them are so like, some of them were kind of misinformed with some things. Like someone came in and asked for the Avengers Secret Wars. I'm like, no, that's the movie. You're gonna want the Secret Wars thing. But I love when people come in, like younger people come in, and they want to get into the Star Wars comics, and like, what should I get? I'm like, get anything. Start wherever. It doesn't matter. I love dealing with that when that comes. I love educating folks. And the youngins, get the youngins ready.
Get the young into it, which is cool. Well, before we get to our first section of the day, again, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the books that came out this year. We're going to talk about the animation, the comic books, and the live action. I just want to touch on something, because if you're listening to this, or if you're watching us tonight, if you're listening to this on Monday when it drops in the stream, if you didn't get a chance to check out our interview with Greg Grunberg, you got to go and do that. I want to tell a quick little story there. It was very interesting. Greg was online on
Tuesday night, because we interviewed him Wednesday night.
That's right. So he was on Tuesday online and said, "Hey, I got 20 minutes. Ask me anything." So I asked him if he'd be on our show, and I woke up the next morning and he had friended me on Twitter. And next thing you know, that night, me and Nick had him. He said he'd give us 30 minutes. We did an hour. But that show actually, it was also sort of a reminder of what we want to do with the types of shows we have here. The Around the Galaxy show that we did this week is the way Around the Galaxy is going to be moving forward. Nick, what did you take away from the conversation with Snap Wexley?
Honestly, he's truly one of the nicest people I've had the chance to interview. Like you said, he offered, initially 30 minutes. We interviewed him for an hour, and he hung out for another 20 minutes after we finished. That's true. He told us stories of, Carrie Fisher, and, he told us the thing that he stole from the set that we're not allowed to talk about. Like, he was so generous with his time. He was so kind. My wife was a hardcore Felicity fan in high school and college. And so before we started, she came out and got to talk to him for a minute. He offered to send her a book. And then after we got done, the show ended, and about an hour later, Pete texted me and he said, "Hey, Greg sent me this for Laura." He had called a friend of his who was also in the cast of Felicity, and she essentially made a cameo video and sent it to my wife. "Hey, Laura, this is so-and-so. I played whoever." And so kind, so generous, so fun. And he's a fan. And yeah, sure, he's kindergarten best friends with J.J. Abrams, have been best friends through their whole life. But he told amazing stories. And he's genuine. I think that's the biggest way I can sum it up, is he was genuine and he was kind. And it excites me to be able to continue to share these kinds of conversations and find the other Gregs that are out there that are also working in Star Wars, working in entertainment. It was just a really special time, and it was so crazy how it all came together.
Yeah, he was brutally honest and just so real and so much fun. It was a really great time. Well, we have.
I was. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Chris.
I was at work, and some parts when I should have been working, I was watching the interview. I thought it sounded so fun, and I was like, oh, I wish I was there with those guys, like talking to him. But I thought he seemed so cool, and he's such a genuine fan.
Yep.
For what I could gather from it, I thought it was an excellent show.
I'm not gonna lie, it did give me a different impression of Rise of Skywalker. You all know my opinions on Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. And
Mhm.
he and I just disagreed on Last Jedi. But now at least I understand his perspective on Rise of Skywalker a little bit, which I thought was pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So,
And just as a tease, if somebody hasn't had a chance to check out the episode, there's so much fun stuff in it. But the story he tells about being a kid and being with Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams as they're cutting up old Steven Spielberg 8mm film that was found in a guy's house in Arizona. And like Kathy Kennedy, who was an assistant to Spielberg, like it's wild. And then that's like what the movie The Fabelmans is about that's out right now. Like it's such a crazy story about, that was the way his life was.
It is a jam-packed hour. But speaking of jam-packed, we have a jam-packed show. So we're going to take a real short break. We'll take a 60-second break. And when we come back, we're going to have Becca Benjamin from Tarkin's Top Shelf joining us. And we're going to be talking about the best of the books from 2022.
Yep. Man, that's a little 60-second dance break I didn't know I needed right there.
Well, welcome back. We are excited to be back here with Force Connect, our first version of Force Connect. Guys, make sure you call in, dial in. We'll put that number in the chat if you want to talk to myself, Nick, Chris, or Becca. How are you?
You just like snuck me in there. I wasn't even ready. I'm like, here I am. You're so bad. Little warning.
Well, that's what I did. Try to keep things keep it real.
That's right. We operate on the fly. You got to be ready around here.
Right.
On the toes.
How are you, Becca?
Like I said earlier, backstage, I'm much better today than I was a week ago. So
No doubt.
I'm warm. It's like Mother Nature has a sense of humor, and I'm not finding it funny whatsoever. It's like 55 degrees today. Okay.
Yep.
And last week it was 12 degrees and it was reaching zero, sub-zero temperatures in the evening. So, and here I am. Whatever.
Well,
Glad to have you.
Well, we are so glad that you are here. And I can echo a little bit of that sentiment. The only difference is where you live, you are as a general rule used to that cold. Where I live in Alabama, this time last week it was 16, feels like 6, and today it was 73 degrees. So there's no sense of like normal. When it comes to
we're
weather
used
here.
to cold, but not with 80 miles per hour gust of winds with a hurricane of snow. That just keeps coming, and it was just insane.
Despite the challenges I know that some people faced, I will say that when you have that cold weather and you have to hunker down, what better way to do it than with a Star Wars book of some kind? And so we're very thankful that you were on to bring us our first little segment talking about books. And I know, Pete, you had a poll that we ran this week. Do you want to pull that up real quick?
Sure.
We asked favorite books. What was your favorite non-High Republic era Star Wars novel of 2022? Was it Princess and the Scoundrel, Brotherhood, Shadow of the Sith, or Queen's Hope? I don't remember how many total votes we got, but Shadow of Sith won pretty handily in that conversation. Brotherhood was second. Princess and the Scoundrel was third. Tell us about the books this year, Becca, because this is certainly what y'all do on Tarkin's Top Shelf. Give us a quick overview of those, and then, what was your favorite?
Wow. I don't like to say favorite. It's like trying to pick your kid, like go over your kids. You know what I mean? You don't do that.
Okay. What were the highlights? You don't have to pick a favorite. What were your highlights? How about that?
Okay. So for me, I'm going to be honest. I always find something in the Star Wars books that I really like. I might not like the entire book, but there's always something that like I find so exciting about. And for me this year, 2022, the books were just phenomenal. Not to mention the cover art. Holy cow. I am sorry, the best cover art we've had this year is The Princess and the Scoundrel. It was just fantastic cover art.
It was really
hands
great.
down, color palette, all of it just gorgeous. I think what really happened this year, which we don't see, we do see it, and I know, Chris, you'll agree with me, we see it in the High Republic stuff.
Yeah.
This year, when it came to things like Padawan, Brotherhood, Queen's Hope, all those books, the authors got together and they sat down and they talked to one another, so no one kind of overlapped or hiccuped on anything. So they were very coordinated, and I think that is something that needs to happen all the time, because those books all kind of felt like they belonged together. And then you get something like Shadow of the Sith, where it's interesting because before that book was announced, like, we knew Adam Christopher was going to do something Star Wars. At first he was slated to do The Mandalorian, right? And then that was next. And we're like, oh man, because he does such great work with Stranger Things. So not to mention, he's been a longtime follower of Tarkin's Top Shelf, which really blows my mind. Like, he's a sweet guy. So that said, Mark and I, my co-host over there, we were saying months before it was announced, we really wish we could get that story, that Lando, that one-liner in The Rise of Skywalker. Like, what was all that about? Luke and Lando together? Oh, that's gold. That's gold. And there it was. So that said, that book just really, for me personally, this is just a personal level. I mean, I would have to say I had two favorite books this year, if I'm going to say favorite, and that was one of them. And that was because of the story, the continuity, and for me, fan gratification. It felt like it was written for me personally, and I told Adam, there were certain moments that I wept. Like, I wept so hard where my husband's walking by, like, what are you doing? You're reading a book. There's Star Wars too. I'm just like crying. Like, it just, he just nailed it. I mean, I've always said this. It's like Palpatine, how he tells Anakin, you got to learn the Force's all of its aspects, not just dogmatic use of the Jedi. I feel the same way in Star Wars. You just can't watch what's on screen.
Right.
You got to dip into other mediums. Otherwise, you're missing stuff.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Nick and Pete, exactly.
Hey, you save your anger for when Heather gets here. You save your anger for when Heather gets here.
But so let me ask you though, Becca, because I did not read Shadow of the Sith, which I'm almost embarrassed to say, especially because I know Adam, right?
I actually only read about the first 25 pages, so I'm right there with you, Pete. I didn't get it.
But what do you say to people who say, and not to be controversial, but people who say, I shouldn't have to read a book to enjoy or get the movie? What are your thoughts on that? Because from what, and I will read Shadow of the Sith. It's like next on my list.
Do the audio.
Yeah. Mark Thompson's a genius. But what are your thoughts on that?
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
I say, if you really don't want to read, do what we did in high school, and you'll know what I'm talking about. do your Cliff Notes. Listen to podcasts that talk about the books. You're going to get spoiled a bit, but if it's something that might click with you just based on what other people are talking about, then go read it.
Absolutely. And I've found that exact same thing. I've found when I've listened to, whether it's you guys or whether it's another podcast and they talk about a book that I didn't think I was going to read. And then I hear somebody go, well, they cover this. And I'm like, oh, wait, I do actually want to know that. And it helps propel me past whatever mental block I put up that kept me from doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And second book that I would say do not skip over, because 2022 was the year of Anakinness.
Yes, it was.
Mike Chen's Brotherhood.
It's fantastic.
Please
I did read
don't
that
pass
one.
that one by.
I did read that one. I read that one.
Okay. Good.
I actually read that one to and from Celebration on the plane on the way out and back, and I finished it on the way home, and it was phenomenal. It was such a great book, and I'm the one, I read all the EU stuff back in the day in the new canon. I read New Dawn, sometime relatively early on, the Kanan and Hera book. I've read only one or two, but I've missed out on the Thrawns. I haven't touched High Republic. I have just not been as good with the new books. And that's, again, it's not quite as bad as comics, but that's one of my flaws. But Brotherhood, when it came out, I grabbed it from my local library. I read it coming and going, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Like I loved that book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'll tell you why
totally channeled both of them. They're great.
He did, and the reason that book was, I read that one as soon as I got the copy of it, was because I'd had Mike Chen on my show when he did the Empire Strikes Back story, Certain Point of View.
The Certain Point of View.
Mhm.
And nobody that I've spoken to who is a content creator, probably other than I haven't spoken to Filoni, number one, but number is Chen when it comes to his understanding of the Clone Wars dynamic between the two of them. And that's book
it.
is like,
Gets it.
yes,
He gets it completely.
Gets it.
And like you said too, Becca, with the Lando story and the Ochi of Bestoon and that line from the movie that propelled that book, the incident on Cato Nemordia, like that drove the Brotherhood book. Like it was that same thing.
That
Pull
doesn't
those
count.
threads. And it doesn't count.
Right.
That's right. He said in the elevator, it doesn't count. But that kind of attention, and that's what we've of course come to expect from Lucasfilm, from the story group, from the way that they continue to weave the threads of this entire galaxy together. Take that bit and make it into a thing. Like I love how much, and you're right. You know, the understanding of that Clone War era relationship between the two of them, like Anakin trying to figure out, I'm not a Padawan anymore. Like the amount of, what went into that, both of them sorting out who they are, which then honestly pays off when we get the Kenobi series this summer. I mean, having the way those two things kind of overlap, I thought was really, really special.
I agree. There was just so much in that. And not to mention, it was such a good companion piece to Matthew Stover's because, you get the Sun Dragon, you get really a lot of backstory on that. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's just, he just nailed it. And of course, Mike talking with Katrina about Ventress was just, oh my God, Ventress. Sorry. It was.
So let me ask you this. 2022, I mean, we've gotten Star Wars books in a lot of the years in the past, but this year really seemed to take it to the next level, take it up a notch. Not only these books we're talking about, but like we said, everything that was in the High Republic era. What is it about the books this year that you feel made this a special year for Star Wars books?
I think, honestly, for me, and this, again, it's just a personal thing, it was the prequelness. I miss the prequels being highlighted, being talked about, being loved, because they should be. And a lot of these books focused on the prequel era. And I think that's huge. And that's saying something. Like we really had a year where a lot of Padme was being talked about without saying Padme.
Right.
So that was like huge for me. You get, the highlights on the goodness of Anakin. And that really, honestly, yes, he's accountable for the things he decided to do, but what led him there, he's not fully responsible. There was a lot of other players, and you get to really see that. And I think that says something. Plus, the Skywalker family was really highlighted this year, with E.K. Johnson doing her final book for the Padme books. There was a lot of Shmi, and that was just absolutely beautiful. I really think we need a prequel book if we can't get a live action show or something on Shmi Skywalker. I think that's a nice blank canvas to really discuss and to explore. And I think they should do it. Absolutely.
Well, we have said throughout the course of this show that we want our callers to call in. We want people to join us, certainly in different segments throughout the show. We have our first caller in the background. We're going to run a video real quick and we're going to bring our caller in. But it's fun that this caller is calling in when we are talking about books, because as I said, we have basically been talking about these other new books. But if we wanted somebody to talk about the High Republic era and books that are related to that, this caller that we have right now is that person. So Pete, why don't we hit a video and let's get our friend in here to join us.
Hello.
Oh.
Hello, what have we here?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey, look who it
the
is.
lovely Christina Ariel and an extra special guest.
Christina. Yeah.
Look, we got two Beccas. We got my Zoe
Even
and Becca Benjamin. Hi, Becca.
Oh my God. Hi, Christina. This is such a surprise. I had no idea. Oh my God.
Neither did we. We're so
No.
happy to see her.
Oh, this is wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, I figured I got a message this morning that you guys were doing this, so I figured, hey, I'm just gonna pop in and be like, "What's up? What are you guys doing?" What you talking about?"
Absolutely.
And that's about it. And then
Absolutely.
I don't have much time, but I just wanted to tell you guys how much I appreciate you this year and all the kindness you guys have showed me. Becca was one of the first people that knew I was pregnant. I mean,
Mhm.
you guys, this year has been amazing, and if I can pop in and say hi and just be like,
Of
I'm
course.
grateful for all of y'all.
Oh, well, I know I speak for all of us. I know I speak for the chat that's blowing up right now. Excited to see you. We are so thankful for you and all the things that you do in the fandom. And it's been such an amazing year for you. The stuff that you did at Celebration, Kenobi, the behind the scenes, I say this all the time. And of course, you and I have talked about this when you were on my show, both being from the South, Georgia, Alabama, our Auburn connections, all of that. But you are really our representative in Star Wars on so many levels. You're the fan that gets to go do all the stuff, and we get to live it through you. And we're always thankful for that.
I mean, I'm like, hey, we're doing the thing.
So we're so thrilled to see both of your beautiful faces. And we were talking about books, and I'll ask you this one question real quick. We were talking about books, mostly the non-High Republic stuff, but there were also great High Republic books this year. What do you feel like made this year special for Star Wars, and especially the High Republic as far as books go?
Honestly, just the excitement of going into phase 2 for me has been, I can only speak for myself, obviously, but
Sure.
The excitement and knowing that you're going to get the blade and more Porter Ingle and just all of these, I don't know, it's just finding its legs, I guess. And then to know we're going back hundreds of years into the past further. And what's that going to bring? What's it going to yield? Okay, listen, we got Marta Road this year, and I love her so much because it's this is who begat Markion.
Yep.
So good and doggone well that there is an aspect of her, especially now. I don't know how much I can spoil, but especially now, knowing she's all in her feelings, you're like,
Listen, Christina, I've read it. Becca's read it. Pete and Nick have not. So what can we say to them?
I'm feeling shame right now.
That's right. This is our intervention.
To start
right
reading
now.
the High Republic stuff, because I've got no one to talk to about this.
To quote the great philosopher Rihanna, once a good girl goes bad, she gone forever. That is a synopsis of Marta.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Absolutely
Amazing.
That's great. That's great. And this is a great comment from Eric in the chat. Says, can't wait to see how High Republic flows into the Acolyte. And I think we're all definitely excited for that. Man. Even if I haven't read the books, I'm coming into that just excited to see what's going to happen.
Listen, I am a huge Leslie Headland fan. And if there is anyone that I truly trust with this to give it their own vision and voice, she is going to do an incredible. Have you seen the cast for the Acolyte?
Oh my gosh.
Manny
fantastic.
Manny Jacinto. I am a huge Good Place fan. And he is so good. And if you watch him in other performances, he's a nuanced performer. He really buys into it. So to see him, Amandla Stenberg, all these people who are now in the their High Republic. I also think about the fact that I get to get these people on the show. And I'm
right. You get that.
I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm a fangirl. And when I talk to people, I love you. I just want you to know I love you.
Chrissy, any idea when that show's going to come out? I mean, they haven't made any announcements, but
no, I know nothing about the show. I have no information. I have nothing.
Not looking to get you in trouble. Just was curious.
No.
I know that there's been set pictures. I saw some rehearsals happening, but other than that, it's kind of what are you gonna do?
Well,
are any of you going to London?
I'm sorry.
Are any of you going to London?
No, I'm not going to.
I wanted to.
No, sadly.
I got to hug Becca at.
I know. I feel really bad.
No.
I know that's what she says. So I'm supporting her tonight.
Well,
I know.
Christina, we are so
I'll be there
excited
in spirit.
That's right. We all will be there in spirit. We were
Zoe
so
went to
excited
a
to see.
celebration. She's all
Oh,
celebrating.
sweet baby.
Ah,
Right,
that's
I know,
amazing.
right?
Yeah, she was working. That child was working hard at celebration.
Yes.
The child was hosting everybody at celebration.
Exactly.
She didn't even have to be
Exactly.
present. She didn't have to use her own feet.
Yeah. She had
Unlike
the
you.
easy job, right, Mom?
Oh,
Oh man.
Well, Becca, we don't. I mean, Christina, we don't want to take up any more of your time, but we're so thrilled we got to see you for a couple minutes tonight, and that sweet baby. Thank you for popping in and saying hey.
beautiful.
Well,
Aw.
She's
again, you guys, I'm looking forward to another great year with all of you.
Same.
And I hope you
Same.
have a great night. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you
Absolutely.
soon.
Happy New Year. Much
Happy
love.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
Oh my
Well,
God. You guys
Push her out, but
Fun surprise number one of the night.
there you
Oh, that
go.
was fantastic.
That was fantastic. I'm
was
so
good.
excited that it worked out that she could pop in. And we are going to also keep things moving. Before we get you out of here, Becca, the last
Mhm.
question I wanted to ask you is, we're facing a new year. We know we're going to have more books, things.
Yes.
What are you excited about in books coming up in the new year that we know about?
First thing that I'm really excited about, because we haven't heard from her, this author's voice, since Black Spire and Phasma.
Mhm.
Rise of the Red Blade. Wow. Miss Dawson, she's gonna nail it. Sorry.
Yep.
And I think I wouldn't be as excited as I am if it wasn't for Reva. So I'm just gonna say that.
Yep.
I'm excited about that. Battle of Jeddah by George Mann.
Yes.
But I already have the audio. So
Look at you.
not saying anything. And of course, my lovely friend Kristen Baver. I'm looking forward to 100 Objects.
Yes, I
Okay.
can't wait for that one to actually hit.
Awesome.
We heard about that at Podathon. There's so much great stuff coming up.
Mhm.
Well, Becca, we
Yeah,
will
so
see
many fun
you
things.
again soon, and I'm
Okay.
looking forward to working on Podathon 23 with you again. We haven't announced a date or anything, but we'll get there soon enough. But
We'll get there.
Soon enough.
Yeah, one thing
It'll
at
be
a
here
time.
before
Don't
we
bite
know it.
off too much there.
no, we'll we'll
Reel
do
it
with this
in.
show first, and then we'll figure out what
Exactly.
happens next, right? But
Well,
Becca,
thank you for
so much.
joining us. Happy
Thank
New
Thank you for
sorry,
having
Pete.
me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
no.
See ya.
No problem. And we'll be back in just a minute, and we'll be talking animation when we come back from the break.
There we are. We're back again. More fun guests. Kerwin from Father Son Galaxy. How are you, my friend? Oh,
Happy
you're
New Year,
muted. I don't think.
gentlemen.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
There he is.
All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Happy
Year to
New
you.
Year,
We're
man.
so glad. We are so glad to see you, and we appreciate you taking some time to join us. We were sorry to hear that Keith was under the weather,
Yes.
but we send certainly our best to him. We hope he gets to feeling better, but we get to talk to you tonight. So what's up?
Yes. Thank you. Yes. And Keith sends his regards as well. I know he wanted to be here. He tried, but
He just had a birthday, right?
Yeah, right. He's still celebrating his birthday. True. So thank you for having me.
Of course, absolutely. We're so glad to see you. Well, Pete, we've got another poll that I know we ran, asking the question about animation, what people were, what their thoughts were. What did we get out of that one?
Let's take a look at what we saw here. We asked
So-
people. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that's right. Favorite Star Wars animation from 2022. We had Tales of the Jedi, we had Lego Summer Vacation, and we had Galactic Pals. It was a runaway with 81% on Tales of the Jedi. Lego
That's
Summer
shocking.
Vacation got 15. and Galactic Pals got 4. So probably went the way we expected that would go. But Kerwin, you guys have covered certainly animation, all the different stuff that you guys cover on your show. But I know you got to talk to the Lego creators this year. You have done some really fun interviews, amazing stuff that you and Keith have both done. Talk to us a little bit about animation and what you guys saw this year, what stood out, kind of where it hit for you guys.
Yeah, it would start with talking to David Shane and Ken Cunningham. So David Shane is the writer and executive producer of Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation. Ken Cunningham is the director. This is actually our second time. We were fortunate enough to speak to them last year for their Christmas holiday special. They were back again this summer. We were so excited to speak with them again. What I like about their shows, their series, is not only is it fun for the whole family to watch, but it has a lesson to learn. And I found myself actually getting emotional at the end of the episode because I got it. Basically, not to give too much away, Finn and Rey, pretty much the cast of The Last Jedi is taking place after the film. They're taking a cruise to celebrate their victory. But something is unsettled with Finn. And it turns out that he was just worried about not seeing his friends again. So he was visited by Obi-Wan, which, we know that Finn is now force sensitive if he's being visited by Obi-Wan.
Sure.
So the lessons were about, just enjoying yourself in the moment and doing what you love to do and then learning to let go. So those were the lessons that Finn needed to learn. It was very nice. It was very well done.
No, I think it's exactly it. And I loved, those little emotional moments. And even watching them by myself, like I have kids and my kids aren't super, I have 4 girls. They're not super into Star Wars at this point anymore. But of course, I'm going to watch everything that comes out. So like I watch that. And even in those moments, I'm getting emotional by myself going, what's going on here? It's Legos and it's Star Wars, but it's still special and it still speaks to me. And I love that's a part, the power of the Lego stuff. That whether it's the video game, Skywalker Saga came out this year, and that was a big deal that everybody had looked forward to with the delays, but also just in the different the holiday special that we got, the Halloween, the summer vacation, like that's become something else we look forward to. Freemaker Adventures has a huge following. There's so many people that, and it's that same different irreverent kind of humor, but still happy, still positive, still fun, certainly family friendly. There's really a special mix in there with those Lego specials. I mean, certainly you guys I know feel that way. So Lego Summer Vacation certainly was a big one. The biggest one really this year was Tales of the Jedi. Yes, and I want to hear your thoughts about that. I want to hear what you and Keith thought, but I'm going to drag Chris in on this one as well, because Chris is kind of our resident lore master keeper. There's a lot that I rely on him. We rely on him when it comes to some of these deep backstories, these things that go this far back. What about it for you guys, first of all, and then Chris, I want to hear what you think as well.
Yeah, well, we were fortunate enough to attend Celebration back in May, and we actually saw the first episode of Tales of the Jedi. We were at the Tales of the Jedi panel, and they showed the episode of the birth of Ahsoka. Which was very, very cool. We meet our mother and we meet the villagers who are taking care of this little baby and how they've determined that this little girl is Jedi. So we couldn't wait for the series to drop. There were 6 episodes, 3 related to Ahsoka, 3 Ahsoka stories and 3 stories about Count Dooku. Now, not too much of a fan of Count Dooku. But when I saw these episodes, I'm more intrigued to learn more about Dooku. It was just so exciting. I would say of the 6 episodes, my favorite would be Choices. And that's the episode with Dooku and Mace Windu going to the planet to pick up the body of this Jedi to bring it back to Coruscant. And that was all they needed to do. And that was Mace Windu's order. He didn't want to do anything else, but Dooku wanted a little bit more. He wanted he wanted the 2 of them to investigate what happened to this Jedi. Right. They have a right to know what happened to their fellow comrade. So it turns out that there was some type of conspiracy going on, and this Jedi was a part of it. If you look at it, Dooku did the right thing. I mean, it wasn't
Right.
just about, okay, this is the mission. Let's just send
Mhm.
send the Jedi back for the burial. But we needed to learn more, and
Yeah.
they found out that there was more to what happened. But in the end, he wasn't rewarded for that good deed. It was
Right.
Mace Windu who was rewarded because he received a seat at the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that just goes to show you that Yoda, I'm sure, was looking for someone who was like-minded, who thinks like him, who has the
Right.
same ideology, who follows the code. The code is very important.
Mhm.
Orders are very important. So that's why he went with Mace Windu. And that
Right.
left Dooku out in the cold, unfortunately. And
Mhm.
you kind of felt for him. And you understand why he made the decisions that took place later on.
Yeah. And speaking of books that I haven't read, I know Dooku Jedi Lost,
Yeah.
is a part
Pretty good.
of, getting some more of that story, getting some more of that fleshed out.
Yeah.
Chris, what about for you with Tales of the Jedi? What were some of the big, I love those moments. I agree with you completely, Kerwin. And also, I have certainly over the years since Mace Windu called Ahsoka citizen and dismissed her in Clone Wars season 7, like I'm off the Mace train. Like this didn't do Mace any favors either.
Yeah.
You guys are
But
too
I do
hard on
love how
Mace.
it fleshed out Dooku. But Chris, what about you? What about Tales of the Jedi?
Well, listen, real quick, just to bounce off what Colonel was saying about the Jedi, at least in this era. I'm all about people leaving the order at that point. I'm not a fan of the Jedi at that time. They were too rigid, too set in their ways, and they couldn't be more fluid like Qui-Gon Jinn or Dooku. Or Anakin for that matter. But if we're going to talk about these episodes, which I thought the animation was spectacular, between the two different sets of stories, my favorite one from Ahsoka is when she's learning that move that we see her do in the season 7 finale of Clone Wars, when she's learning that over and over again, like that.
Yes,
that
was
hit a
really
certain way
great.
for me. And for Count Dooku, like when it comes to like music and records and whatnot, I'm a fan of B-sides. And a lot of Dooku's story was a lot of B-sides, especially like for Phantom Menace going into Attack of the Clones. Seeing his relationship with Yaddle, and then seeing sort of his turn and him shutting off the Jedi at that point and having to battle Yaddle in front of Palpatine, I thought was so powerful to me. Like that was just as good a story as anything else has been thrown at us as far as Luke and Vader or Vader / Anakin and Obi-Wan. Like it was just that good. Like I would love to see like a super cut of that mixed in with the events of Phantom Menace, and just see like a nice full-fledged story going to an Attack of the Clones. So those two for me were amazing.
Yeah. And I loved that it really did, it fleshed out those stories, but like what you're talking about, Kerwin, with the decision between Mace and Dooku and the Council, it really gives honestly credence to Luke in The Last Jedi when he's having those conversations with Rey and he's talking about where things went wrong. And like we know the Jedi Order was broken in the prequels, the Shroud of Darkness, all these different things. But to see all of that and to, again, get those B-sides, Chris, to get the backstory on where these things developed, I think that was really, really well done. And again, the battle with Yaddle, the turn, seeing him,
that's what the episode should have been called, honestly.
Yeah. battle Yaddle. But to see him make that turn, to see him make that choice, and that's a big part of, Jedis and that kind of stuff. It really does make sense. Let me ask you this, Kerwin. What were some of Keith's highlights with animation this year? Where did, obviously Summer Vacation was a big deal for y'all.
Galactic Pals came out. Did you watch it?
Yeah, Galactic Pals too. Was that something that y'all took in?
We did watch Galactic Pals. I really got a kick out of it. Let me go back to answer your question about Keith's favorite. episode of Tales of the Jedi. He really enjoyed Tales of the Jedi, but his favorite episode was the last episode with Ahsoka, because it was loosely based on the Ahsoka novel, which Keith has read over and over and over. So he, so it was nice to see it come to life, although it wasn't really exactly like what was in the book. Right. But the visual and the battle with the sixth brother was just so awesome. So he really loved that. And after he saw that episode, he went back and picked up the book again, and read through it. So that would be his favorite. In regards to Galactic Pals, yes, I actually got a kick out of it more than Keith did, because it just reminded me of Keith and his brother Maceo when they were very young. And they're so the story takes place almost in a galactic daycare center, so the idea is that you have all these species. You have Wookiees, you have Porgs and Rhodian, Gamorrean, Hutts. They're all sitting together. The idea is that the droid, the teacher Miri, is trying to learn and understand them and their culture. And, she's so patient to go through, some of the tantrums that they may have, or some of the miscommunication that's going on. But, she hangs in there and tries to make sure that there's peace in the daycare. So to me, it meant to me, if we were to compare it to our galaxy, we have many children from all walks of life, so very different backgrounds, from different countries and different cultures, that although we are from different locations, we can all still get together and communicate with each other, and be loving to each other, and just get along, so that's why I got out of that.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. So as we kind of wrap up talking about the animation this year, we're heading into a new year. I honestly know, the big thing we have on our horizon is we have Bad Batch in less than a week.
Yes, we do.
We're all excited about that. I know you guys are excited. What other animation things do we have on the horizon? What are you guys looking forward to?
Yeah. So Keith wanted me to make sure that I show you these. We are getting ready for the Bad Batch. We actually only have 3 of the members. We're working on Crosshair and Hunter, but
I think Mr. Ryan's can hook you up.
I say Chris has got you ready.
Hey, buddy. You know what I mean, buddy? All right. Thank you. Hunter and Crosshair. That's what we need. But yeah, so we're definitely getting ready for the Bad Batch next week, and the Young Jedi Adventures. It's actually another preschool animated program that takes place during the High Republic. That's going to be interesting. So I'm sure there's going to be life lessons to learn there. And Visions season 2. Yeah, yes. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and what's beautiful about this season is not just animation from Japan, but it's animation from all over the world. So I'm
really intrigued by that, because with the anime, with what we got in the first season, I loved it. It wasn't still something that I'm super familiar with, but I had an idea of an expectation. I don't have an idea of what to expect from Irish animation, from South America, like wherever these different places that these stories are going to come from. Like, that feels like even more exciting, uncharted territory. Like, I'm really anticipating what that can look like and what that could be. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait.
Outstanding. Well, Kerwin, we can't thank you enough for taking some time to join us to talk about animation, to bring those insights to us. Certainly we want to give Keith the best. We want to give Tanya, Maceo. We hope y'all have a fantastic Happy New Year's, and we look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
Yeah, it's been an honor. Thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely. Happy New Year.
All right.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Well, we're going to take another short break, and when we come back, we're going to have Heather Antos and Chris Ryans. They're going to talk about comics, and Nick and I are going to just look on and just try to learn as much as we can about what's happening in comics and talk about what happened in 2022.
Finally, we
Well-
get to talk some comic books.
Woo-woo!
Here we go.
Everyone else can
I
go
want you to
home.
welcome.
That's right.
Yeah,
Show's
yeah.
over.
Yeah,
Heather's
next
here.
you guys, you can take a little nap. We'll talk some comics.
Do we need to leave the two of you alone?
He just left. We're gone.
No, you guys come in. You learn something. Yes.
Heather, awesome to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
What-
joining us.
What up, guys? It's been a bit.
It has.
It has.
been.
It's so good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah.
Of
So Heather, we
course,
know you've
anytime.
been working on Star Wars comics for a while, and I know like now you're doing you're an editor with IDW, and I know you've edited some of the Star Wars comics in the past. Have you been keeping up with what's been going on in the comics for the past year, and what would be your favorite?
Oh man, I definitely have as much as I can. It is really hard to keep up with them, but I definitely have, and I definitely have some insider info on what's coming out next year. But I mean, that's comics though, right? Like we work so far advanced for timelines that I had to go back like look at what came out in 2022. You know, because like just like for instance, for the group working in comics right now, I'm already planning stuff in 24, 25
Wow.
and beyond
Yeah.
because you know, schedules and deadlines and chaos. So this year, gosh, I mean, there's been so many great things. The kickoff of phase 2 of High Republic has been huge. You know, Revelations #1 to tease what's coming this coming year in 2023 is incredible. I thought in 2015 when we launched the Star Wars comics at Marvel, like, holy shit, there's a ton of Star Wars comics, but like now, holy shit, there's a
No, it's
ton
non-stop, right? Yeah.
of Star Wars comics. It doesn't end. So yeah, it's incredible.
Like just last week alone, there were 5 releases.
Yeah.
You know, 2 High Republic books, Dr. Aphra, Yoda, and I'm missing something. It's another one I'm missing. But yeah, there were 5 books. It was insane. It was insane. I love all the content that we're getting. Without spoiling, you know what's coming. What from this year has like got a hold on you? Would it be like the Hidden Empire stuff with the Crimson Dawn trilogy, or Ethan Sachs Bounty Hunters?
What Charles Soule and what they're letting him get away with, really, with Crimson Dawn and Kira and just all of that is just been. It's been so special and so incredible. And, you know, I mean, Charles has been writing for Star Wars, gosh, for 7 years or so now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really tell the amount of trust that they have with him. The stuff that he's allowed to get away with that other writers might not be able to as much. That's been really great. You know, Alyssa Wong and what they're doing with Dr. Aphra and continuing just like these really cool romance triangles and heist stories and just drama. It's like reality television almost. Sometimes.
Yeah.
It's been super fun. And then also on the all ages front, you know, what Dark Horse has launched with hyperspace stories is really interesting and really, really cool. And I'm very curious to see that continue to play out.
I was lucky enough to have Amanda Dibert on my show a couple weeks ago, and she's just she wrote the first one, and I think she had one that just came out in December, right? I think
so. Yeah.
Jedi Stories.
Had another one come out.
See, that honestly is as close as I get to comics. As I interview the writers of the comics, and then I go and I buy their comics. But I do, I did, Heather. I think I did actually tag you in. The person who's reading comics in my house is my son, and he's the one that's making sure that I'm seeing things. And he goes to the comic book store for Pokemon, but then he's like, oh, there's Star Wars stuff over there. Let's get some of that. I'm like, all right. So, Chris, I will get there. I promise you. One day.
Sure.
Sure. Empty promises.
thing.
Hey,
Sure
well,
thing.
let's do this as a way to kind of help even bring up some of this. Pete, you had a comics poll as well.
Yes.
Pull that in, and then maybe Chris, you and Heather kind of tag in on those ones that we had people vote on.
Here's what people
Oh,
said.
I mean, obviously, everyone has the best taste here.
Well,
It's
you know,
clear.
it was funny when I saw Afro win and you were out coming on the show. I was like, how many times, like, how many accounts do you have, Heather, to
it
make
just
sure that
has to
Afro
be.
won?
Hey, I only retweeted this once. So.
She only opened 17 different accounts to pad those votes. But, you know,
She had to pass Vader. So you had to make sure you got there.
that's
But
right.
go ahead, Chris.
You
Let's
had
talk
to
about
beat
It's true.
Greg.
That is what's most important. So
This run of comics specifically is an era that I've been looking forward to be covered, you know, since I was a child. Anything between 5 and 6, you know, that was unexplored territory. Each one of those books, Aphra, Star Wars, Bounty Hunters, Vader, have been spectacular. If you're a fan of the prequels and you're a fan of the sequels, if you're just a fan of Star Wars, Greg Pak has got you covered with Darth Vader because he hits every, like within this one era, he hits every era there is.
What is it? I think it was issue 28 where like you have that Sabe issue, right? Like as working with Palpatine, like holy cow. Like I mean, he's such an, in my opinion, such an underrated writer. And I just, what he's doing on Darth Vader is really, really, truly incredible, which is no small feat because every run of Darth Vader, be it Kieran Gillen's, be it Charles Soule's, and now Greg Pak, has been just absolutely ballpark stellar for a character that is as legendary as this great Sith Lord. Like they're really knocking it out of the park.
And to think that we thought we knew everything there is to know about Lord Vader, like there's so much more when you take him in the suit and then you link him back to, of course, to Anakin Skywalker and those feelings and whatnot. And you, if it hasn't been, you know, beaten over the head, not in a negative way, that Darth Vader's a tragic character, Greg Pak's run like brings it home. That this is a hurt and damaged individual.
I mean, it sounds to me like Vader only gets W's in the comics because on screen he loses every single time, right? I mean, let's face it.
Did you watch Rogue One?
I mean, that was a super W right there.
Okay,
that's a
fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point.
But even at that, like, I feel like in
They
the
still
comics,
got away,
and
though.
again, I'm the jerk that doesn't read comics, but like I feel like when I get, you know, you see the panels posted online, you see, you know, when the things pop up, even more in the comics is when we get him being completely dressed down by Palpatine, when we see him getting, you know, completely, like, it builds. And I think the thing that I love about it, even if I don't read them, but I know, is that it builds that inner turmoil that we know Anakin has. It builds that, you know, I was supposed to be number 2. I was supposed to help. You know, I joined his team because he was going to give me things, and I'm the errand boy, and I'm the guy that still gets my hand smacked.
Well, and I would also dare to argue too, like, as much as people want to say the prequels were, you know, the Vader's story, they weren't. Like, none of the Star Wars movies really have been Vader's story. You know, the prequels, in my opinion, would be it's about the fall of the Jedi, really.
Right.
And, you know, the classic saga, the original saga, is Luke's story, Luke's heroic journey. So yeah, we're gonna see him not at his best. But that's why we have great stories like, I don't know, Vader's down, and these awesome, you know, Greg Pak stories that he's doing right now. Is truly, and gosh, can we talk about those covers by Raza on that run? Just like some of the best comic cover art of ever, point blank period.
Yeah. So many of those I want framed on my wall.
Every single one. Every single one. Yeah.
If we can take it from Vader to something that doesn't have the fate of the galaxy in its hands, and it's just a fun Star Wars run, and that's Ethan Sachs' Bounty Hunters.
Yeah.
Right now, he's Valance is still in the story, and he's working for Vader reluctantly. But you have Tonga's team of Zuckuss, 4LOM, and Bosk. These are characters who they've given so much to. Like they've given so much more character to, and I do not see them as villains. I can't see Bosk as a villain. Sorry, Dan, I can't see Bosk as a villain anymore. And also we get Tasu Leech, and I love that they're throwing that thread to the sequel trilogy era. We're learning more about Conjure Club. So what he's doing, I think is spectacular. And what are your thoughts on his run?
I will say Bounty Hunter is definitely the one I am furthest behind on. But I know Ethan personally. He's a very dear friend. I've worked with him before, and the little bit I have read and just the reviews I've seen online, it's been, extremely well received. And just, I think it's so cool taking these characters that were nothing more than just plot device action figures and truly giving them voices and stories and wants and needs and conflict, like you said, like turning Bosk into just like this guy that we kind of empathize with. Like that's crazy. I never thought I would care about a Trandoshan, right? Like
and really right now the best friendship that's going in Star Wars right now is Forlo M and Zuckuss.
Oh my
God.
God.
The absolute it's
as
the best.
it should be though, let's be clear.
Yeah. And then we've got another Charles Soule run, which is the main series Star Wars. And what we're getting between 5 and 6, of course, we're getting Leia's journey, we're getting Lando's journey from Baron Administrator to General. That's happening. Slowly but surely, that's happening. Luke's journey to what we see in Return of the Jedi,
getting to see him truly turn from farm boy to Jedi, and really find that almost like level of stoicism and wisdom, and along with like understanding and dealing with the fact that he lost his best friend, like he lost Han, and also like it's almost weird having so many Star Wars issues like with the main cast without Han, right? Like it's so interesting to be in this window without everyone's favorite smuggler.
And for the one that won the whole poll, Alyssa Wong and Minkyu Jung, Dr. Aphra, has always it's always had like a special place for me, that book, and how they've incorporated that into the Crimson Dawn trilogy. And what we're seeing with and I love that with her love of archaeology, we're getting so many looks into different eras of Star Wars and these different sects within like for Force users and for an anti-Force group in the Ascendancy or the Ascendant, and them taking technology to mimic Force powers and whatnot, sort of like kind of like what the Mandalorians did to a degree. I think it's incredible, and this run with her and BT and 000, my two favorite droids. And Sana Staros is is in there like front and center, and I'm loving that she's getting her own comic in another month or so. What are your thoughts on that run?
Oh my gosh, as for any who don't know me on this, like Dr. Aphra is very very near and dear to my heart, and of all the characters that I was most nervous to depart from when I left Marvel, it was Dr. Aphra. It was Chelly. I mean, literally, I named my dog Chelly. And gosh, what Alyssa has done it's a very different Dr. Aphra than what we had, but it's still the same Dr. Aphra. Like Alyssa very much understands the flavor of the character, but has added just this level of whimsy and fun and almost like this nonchalantness that I think is just really cool. And just like the fact that Sana Staros gets to be such a main character. And like you said, that she's getting her own book. When that got announced, oh my God, I think I screamed like just about fucking damn time. She's so badass. Like a lot of people keep, when will Dr. Aphra get her own show? When will she appear in the live shows? I agree. But I think Sana too. Like when we need Sana Staros in the live action shows, like
right now.
Like, oh my gosh. Give me more Magna Tolden. Again, I've always been fascinated with the characters that the normal people. How do we survive in this universe where there's magic space wizards running about?
Right.
And like our Dr. Chelilona Afra could not care less. She is so over it. She's like, I got you. Like, that's not a problem. I beat Darth Vader. This is fine.
Right.
She's so much fun. And the fact that this series is still such a fan favorite, it's going so strong. It's getting an omnibus. Alyssa's getting an omnibus of their run that's coming out in March. Like, just, it's so incredible. And then showing no signs of stopping, and give me another line-wide crossover, like Vader Down style, but with the Ascendants and Dr. Afra, and I need it. Give it to me now.
Absolutely.
Well, in a world of live action, like Disney is bringing stuff, and our fingers are crossed just to read Dr. Afra. What I love about Dr. Afra is she's appealing to everybody. My son loves her, and I think it's because she's just a cool character. She's different. I love her because she's very Indiana Jonesy, and I think that's really cool.
Amoral Indiana Jones. Yeah.
yeah. Right. So, Heather,
there's a question real quick. An omnibus is a collection of everything printed. So you have your trades, which are 1 through 6, and an omnibus will be 1 through 25.
Yeah.
And there's another question. I'm going to pull it up because Framey asked this in the chat. They said, a question for Chris and Heather: do collected comics ever get released? Neither of us are on the comic train. It sometimes feels like we're missing out on some great stories.
Yes. They're what we call trades.
Yep.
Or omnibuses. I definitely, if you're newer, I definitely recommend starting with trades, or just going online if you're an online, Comixology or Kindle Reader. But they have trades, which are usually 5 to 6 issues. And then you have your omnibuses, which are like your 25 to 30 issue collections, but those usually run like $100, $150. So that's definitely for the committed fan.
Framey, the trades are what I get
to read.
The trades are usually what I get my son, because that way he can get a whole bunch of them at once.
You can binge them. You can. It's like reading a book.
Well, and I think low key that was a question pointed at me and Pete as the ones who don't read comic books. Like, hey nerds, suck it up, go get some trades and get caught up with everybody else.
See, I can't tell you how much you guys are missing out.
I believe it.
Next time I come on, there's going to be a quiz. So
fair enough.
Fair enough. 2 things on that. One is support your local shop, right? And that's super important. We have a local shop here in my town that's my son, like I said, goes in for Pokemon, walks out with a handful of comic books. But the question I was getting at, Heather, is if you could cast Dr. Afra, and you're not going to do it? Oh, she's not going to do it.
I don't know. Look, and here's the thing. I get asked it all the time. Who would I cast for Dr. Afra or Gwenpool? Another character that I'm very closely associated with, and it's personal preference. Like, people can throw their fan casting at me, but like for me, what I love about Star Wars and what I love about really classic Star Wars is the unknowns, right? Like when Daisy Ridley, when John Boyega, when all of these guys were, Mark Hamill, when these guys were cast in these roles, no one knew who they were. And that helped with the fantasy, that helped with, the believability of all of that. And, I really, and just for me, just for the level of like, I don't want to set myself up to be disappointed.
Sure.
But if I had to, gun to my head, just solely because this movie was the greatest film of the year, Stephanie Sue from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yep.
If I had to, I think she would be incredible. But I really like. I want it to be Dr. Afra. I want Dr. Afra cast as Dr. Afra.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So, without spoiling things, because I know that you get to see stuff that's well in advance. What are you looking forward to without spoiling anything? Because I know Disney snipers all around us. They don't want us to or anything. From the series that have been announced, what are you looking forward to?
Son of Staros, hands down. Son of Staros. I just like I have to, when they announced that book and it wasn't like coming out the next month, I was like, why are you playing with my feelings?
Don't mess with me.
Truly, that is the one. Give it to me now. She's so badass and no nonsense, and I just want more stories of her kicking Han's ass and putting him in his place. That's all I want.
Totally legitimate. Awesome.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Heather, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us and giving us some insight. And I promise when we have you on next, I will have been caught up on not all of them. I can't do that. I can't do that. But maybe I should. If we do a comic book show, I'm just gonna have my son on it, and he's gonna talk about it, and I'm just gonna sit there and go, he's much smarter than me on this stuff. But
if you read nothing else,
okay, yes. What's the one thing we have to read?
If you read nothing else, I would say read the first year of Star Wars and Vader up to Vader's down, and read that.
Awesome.
And if you don't get past that, then you have no taste in Star Wars. But at least you would have tried.
Totally fair. Totally fair.
Love it.
Am I wrong?
No, not at all. No.
Well, that's awesome.
Right.
Well, Heather, thank you so much. We will definitely have you on again. And last time we talked to you was when Chrysanthemum showed up on screen, live action. Who knows who we'll see next, but we definitely want to have you on again sometime soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Have a happy new year, and thanks for coming. And when we come back, we are going to be talking about live action with the Rebel Scum podcast. Well, that was awesome. I'm not going to lie. I do feel a little bit bad about not having read as many comic books as I should.
I was going to say, I mean, Chris gives us a little bit of crap, but when Heather shows up, it feels like I'm actually in trouble. So.
Right. Absolutely.
Sorry,
Well,
Chris.
Chris, do you agree with her recommendation if I'm going to grab something this weekend and just...
Like, you know me, where I'm always like, when someone asks me, like, where should I start in comics? I'm like, start anywhere. It doesn't matter. Just go on. But for you guys, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jason Aaron's run from 2015 with Kieran Gillen's Vader run leading into, who gave you that?
My very good best friend Chris Ryan gave me that at Star Wars Celebration, by the way.
And then definitely Vader Down. Vader Down was like everything led to that point, and it was an amazing run. So yeah, you guys will love it.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Well,
hopefully you'll read it.
Yeah, I'll buy it at least, and then we'll see what happens.
Here's the thing. I'll go ahead and throw this out there just to throw myself on the mercy of the court for a minute. It's less about my willingness to read it and more about my finding it, getting it, buying it, like the steps I need to take to do. And that's lazy. I'm not saying I'm not.
Even I know, Nick, that's really lazy because you can just get the app. Like that's how I was reading some of this stuff was through the app. But yeah,
talk to me.
But see, I think I'd rather have a book in my hand. I don't think I want the app.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the question. I'm gonna throw this out there. It showed up in the chat from Jasmine. I'm gonna throw this Chris's way. Any thoughts on a live action adaptation of Death Trooper?
That zombie one?
Yeah, the zombie stormtrooper book. Do we need that? Would that be fun?
He's taking a drink. He's thinking it through. And he's not answering. I think that says a lot, Chris.
It's an interesting one, and I agree. It fits within a certain category. Certainly, it's old EU. It's some of those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I
Sorry, Jasmine,
think
it's not my thing. The
No,
old EU
but-
is not really my bag, except for
Well-
the Thrawn trilogy.
But here's the place where
And
it
all the
fits,
Dark
and
Horse
it fits into that same thing that we talk about a lot, where like old EU at this point is like stories that current canon told around the campfire. It falls into that idea of like, oh, did you hear the legend of Sleepy Hollow or Death Troopers or whatever? Like it'd be a neat one-off, something that you could use somewhere else. Like it would plug in a different way. I don't know that it would fit in current real canon. But I think it would be a fun, almost like What If, like a Marvel What If situation.
They did a zombie-ish thing in Clone Wars.
Okay,
like those things.
That's
like,
right. The blue, whatever it was. Was it blue? The virus or something?
It was like these little wormy things that went up like the clones. The nose. I forgot what
it was. It was like the Wrath of Khan, but different.
Yes, yeah. Noses instead of ears. Yeah,
that's right.
That's funny.
Interesting. So fun. Well, go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we're gonna try to bring in our next guest host where we're gonna talk about the live action stuff. He's dialing in from Canada, and I always give James a hard time about
communications disruption can mean only one thing: invasion.
So maybe we're gonna try to bring him in. But I'm looking at the screen there. Do you see the same thing I see, Nick? It's kind of
I see nothing. I see nobody
okay.
there.
I'm gonna wait till he hits us in the private chat. But in the meantime, why don't we bring in it's
Yep. Why don't we hit a caller for a minute and see what happens?
Let's get a caller in. Here we go.
And who might you be?
There he is.
Yeah.
The man, the
There
myth,
he
the
is.
legend.
Jeff.
Follow
All right.
in the house.
What's up, fellas? Can y'all
How
hear
are
me?
you?
How are you?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, my camera's all doing wacky stuff. There we go.
There
There
it
we
is.
go. All
There
right.
we go.
All right.
Look at that shirt.
That's y'all
That's
know what's
right.
up. Y'all know what's
Nice
up.
streaming Star
Chris, we're
Wars
missing your
shirt.
name on it though. I got to get a piece of tape and write Ryan's underneath it.
I am merely the Robin to the Batman. I don't need to be.
The Batman.
I'm kidding. I should be on. I'm kidding.
That's right. We gotta fix some things.
Cheers, fellas. I've been waiting to do this for a while, so
Cheers,
I
Jeff.
didn't have beer last time. So
Happy
here's-
holidays, Merry
going with it.
Christmas, and New Year.
The beard is rocking, bro.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Normally, my beard gets to this point. My wife is like, "Get rid of that thing," and something happened, and she was like, "Keep going with it. Let's see where it goes." So, yeah, I'm going with it. Originally, I was telling people it was because I had
Go
to
with it.
deliver presents on the 24th, but I'm running with
Go
it.
with
I'm
it
gonna
all
with it.
day.
I'm at that age where I'm now a Jedi Master. I'm no longer a Padawan, so I'm gonna take full advantage of that and run with it.
You're rocking a Dooku beard. That's sick.
It's
Now,
rough.
Chris, if we grow in your stuff, you can be bearding Star Wars.
The only way is through those AI pics that were a big thing a couple weeks ago. That was the only time I ever had a full beard. Beard transplant. I'll get that done.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm seriously thinking about
Beard
it.
Club for men, something like
Beard
that.
Club, man. Yeah. I'm
Well,
with it.
Jeff, we're gonna hit this. I think we've got James back, so we're gonna grab him in a minute. But before we grab him, live action Star Wars this year, we have gotten a bunch of stuff. And what was your favorite of the live action stuff that we got? We got Andor, we got Kenobi, we got Book of Boba Fett.
It was Andor far and away.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike the other ones, but Andor was such a veer off what the normal shows were.
Yep.
I mean, it was, and the intensity of it. I think Chris, I was on one time. We were talking about how many moments during the season were you on the edge of your seat? Were you,
yeah,
like
the whole
waiting,
thing.
almost falling off the edge of your seat because
Yeah.
you were so into it? Like the Kenobi was so good in its own right, but Andor was, like I said, so different than what we're normally used to on a Star Wars show. That, of course, everybody lost their mind with the slow pacing and all that. tools, but whatever. But here's my question. Let me ask y'all this. Everybody that was complaining about the pacing of Andor and its 12 episode run, I guarantee you every one of them watched Lost, and it was like 25 episodes a season, and all these other network shows are 25 episodes a season.
It's true.
And Andor didn't take a giant shit in your lap like Lost did. So
He's not wrong, by the way. I'm just throwing it out there. Despite having interviewed Greg Grunberg 2 days ago, and he was the pilot in the show Lost, or one of the pilots of the plane in Lost. Lost was a big disappointment for me. It didn't end the way it started.
It did not end the way it should have.
So anyway, but those series were 25 episodes or 24 episodes a year, and everybody was glued into them. But Andor's 12 episodes, and everybody's freaking out because of the slow pacing.
Right. They didn't have enough pews and lightsabers.
Yeah.
They had to be conditioned a little bit.
Yeah.
So by the time that 4th episode came along, they were all
well, perfectly said. Yeah. And but that was my favorite, hands down, just because of the difference of it, and the acting in it was so good. The acting in all the stuff was good, but that show just, I mean, I couldn't wait. Each week I was on of course, Kenobi. I mean, all of them I was waiting every week.
You can't go wrong. There's no question.
You can't go wrong with any of them. And I have to admit, this coming off that last segment, Chris, I have never read a single word of any comic, any Star Wars comic, any book. And as you know, because I sent you that picture of all those comics that I found in my grandmother's house. And I was like, hey, buddy, don't know jack squat about any of this stuff. What you got?
Now, what we need to do is we need.
I kicked him out. I'll bring it back. But
and what I was going to say is we need Jeff to be quiet, because if too many of us keep going on this I don't read comics train, we're going to get Chris to quit the show, and we don't want
Chris,
that.
Chris will quit the show, and Heather will never come back. So
Black Dynamite's not quitting the show.
And we do have Canada available and ready, so I'm going to bring in James. Jeff, I'm going to force push you out, but hang out because we may be able to bring you back in.
Got number time, baby.
Do a quick force push. Here you go. Bam.
Oh.
There he is. Fingers
there he is.
The internet is working. James,
am I here?
You're with us.
You're here.
I'm so sorry.
It's
sorry about that.
You know, it's
raining out, so our internet doesn't work when it rains.
No, that makes sense.
Hey, before we go any further, it is very important for me to point out that James is wearing the 2017 Celebration Orlando T-shirt. And I literally almost put that exact shirt on, but I didn't because of Bad Batch, and so I grabbed the Dad Batch shirt because next week. So well done, sir. Proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, pulled this one up. I haven't worn it in a while, actually, and I said tonight would be a perfect night, and then my internet said, "Screw you."
In your face.
I'm glad you're joining us. I'm glad you have a glass with some brown liquid in it, which is good. You're do it. Oh, and the Maple Leafs, who beat my Flyers multiple times. It's I think every time they get the chance, they beat them. And but James, we brought you in to talk about live action, and I'm not going to lie. Part of it is because your favorite was actually it did not come in at the top of the list when we asked people what their favorite, not necessarily the best, because I think that's important, especially in light of a lot of the conversations that we've seen in social media. Favorite show, Book of Boba Fett came in last, no offense, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and of course Andor came in at the top. But and I don't think that's a surprise to anybody because there's probably recency bias, because I would imagine if you go back and watch one of these two, you're going to feel differently about them. But you, and it's become sort of a running joke between the two of us, but you're a huge fan of Book of Boba Fett. Let's start with that, and let's just talk about why did that hit you the way it did? And I think here's the thing. Any of those shows, right? But I'm very curious why Book of Boba Fett worked so well for you. And I'm not saying that you're saying it's your number one, but I do know that you and I have a lot of conversations about it.
And I definitely always vote Book of Boba Fett, knowing that nobody else will. So I've got to give it some love because look, Andor. I think I can admit to myself that Andor was a superior show. on a lot of levels. Andor was amazing, but Book of Boba Fett, it was a weird one because I've never cared about Boba Fett at all. Like I'm not, I had the toy when I was a kid. I never cared about Boba Fett, and people are like, "Oh, he survived the Sarlacc pit." I'm like, I don't care. I never cared. Just didn't care. And they're like, and then when they hit us with that, like the greatest tease of all time at the end of Mando season 2, when they're like Book of Boba Fett, you're like, what? Like, I was like, okay, let's see what's going on. And the show happened, and I didn't know what to expect. And then I remember the first episode watching it, and I was like, all right, the Sarlacc pit thing's I think they pretty much nailed that. This is before I went on Twitter and found out I was wrong. I think they nailed this. All right. And then the way, like, I know people had a problem with the back and forth, but I was kind of all in on that. And I was like, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is like Godfather 2. And then you watch it, like, it's like Godfather 2. I'm like, yeah. That's why, you kind of go back and forth. And it was very similar to Andor, where it was like very slow paced. It was methodical. It knew what it was doing. It knew where it was going. And I was just like, yeah, let's see what's going on. And I'm not someone who, as I get older, I'm not into like the all-on action, CGI action-packed stuff anymore. I'm kind of just see what we got. And I'm not saying the show was perfect by any means. Like, I have issues with it and whatnot. But like, I don't know. It's just every week I was like, okay, I'm all in on you. Let's see what's going on. And I just like the way they took their time. They knew where they were going. That's Andor on this show. I always felt like they knew where they were ending up, and you just kind of felt like you trusted the process, you trusted where they were taking you, and then when it ended, you're like, well, that's where we're going. Kind of felt like it.
Yep.
Obi-Wan, I loved Obi-Wan, but I still feel like there was moments in that show where I don't know where I felt like they were just like, we gotta kidnap Princess Leia for the 20th time. I'm like, but I know she's fine. Like, I love Obi-Wan though. Don't get me wrong. That show was great. I feel like those two shows were very similar in that they knew where they were going, and I appreciated watching that. And I liked how it was drawn out.
I like the way you put that. They knew where they were going. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. No, go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, and I think I texted this to you when you put the poll up this week, Pete. I do love that the question was worded the way it was, which was favorite, not necessarily best. Because my personal opinion is Andor was the best live action we got. Yeah. But Kenobi was my favorite, and it's a sentimental favorite. The Obi-Wan and Anakin, it's not your fault, Obi-Wan, like, still wrecks me. When Obi-Wan raises his hands and starts chunking boulders at Darth Vader, like, that's badass. Yeah. The father-daughter-ish moments between Obi-Wan and little Leia, like, that. So that was my favorite over the course of this last year, but I think Andor was the best. And I do believe you can separate those. And we talk about that a lot. The modern other version of that is, for me, Empire versus Last Jedi. Empire is my favorite, but Last Jedi is the best, in my personal opinion. So it mixes and it works in a similar level. And so for me with these shows, and I loved Book of Boba Fett. It was fun. It was the popcorn show. My favorite episodes were the Mando episodes of Book of Boba Fett, like a lot of people. But when it comes down to those three, if I'm doing favorite versus best, that's where I shake out. And again, that's just my one nerd's opinion.
But I think what's really interesting about what Andor did, excuse me, for the way we look at Star Wars, right, is I think it's important that Andor came out when it did, because we can now look at the different ways of telling Star Wars stories, right? And what Andor did was it really set a very strong foundation for how horrible the Empire is. They're just the worst, right? In every possible way. But you can still put that popcorn action adventure Boba Fett on top of that, and you can still have that great father-son story happening with Mandalorian. And I'm really curious as to where that's going to go. I'm also, just because she's still with us and I think she'll have a great point of view, and she knows so much about lore, I'm going to bring in Becca as well, just so she can throw in her point of view as well. Hey, Becca, no pressure. I just saw you back there still, and I want to hear from you. So
I'm just shaking my head.
I see you like nodding at certain things and like no on others.
Yeah. It's funny because I am going to touch on things that you've been saying throughout this entire year when it comes to live action, Pete, and that is, people bringing down other live action to boost the one that they favor over the others. And I
Right.
don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't
We
get
don't
it.
have to degrade one to like another one.
Right. And so that said, I think honestly, these stories are given to us based on, or are given to us for us to look at them and to judge them based on where we are in our fandom. Okay. It's not about, well, if you look at this shot compared to that shot and the production, forget all that. You're in for the story.
Right.
If the story doesn't hit you, then it's not going to hit you. I mean, it is what it is. Now, starting with the Book of Boba Fett, I'm nodding like the whole time because Boba Fett was never my like yeah, it's Boba Fett, you know.
Yeah,
but
same.
now watching that with my son, who's 20, who absolutely loves the Fetts, like he loved Django. You know, he had all the Boba Fett games, and of course, he was playing them when they were already out for years. But he was, you know, growing up with that. You know, watching it through him. Okay, it was different, you know, and I started to really get into this character. And I thought it was an enjoyable thing. And not to mention, see, I'm one of these people that think of things that it's obscure. Like, okay, so the whole moment in the Book of Boba Fett with the tree, right? You know, I'm thinking to myself, oh, is this possibly the tree where the Japor snippet comes from? Because you don't see trees on Tatooine. Like, it's rare. But yet Anakin carves this wooden Japor snippet, right? And it's wood.
Right.
Is this, you know, like I'm starting to think like, are we going to get a story on that? I know it sounds so obscure, but it's like, that's where my head goes. So, but it was just, it's incredible to see how, I know people didn't like it. I love the flashbacks. I love stuff like that because that tells a story that carried over even in Obi-Wan, which I loved because to me, that was just such a love story for the prequels. And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I was one of those young kids. I mean, very young. I didn't understand the greater themes for the original trilogy, right?
Right.
Because I was too young. I mean, I started watching them from the age of 4 to 9. So whatever. So when the prequels came out, I was in my 20s and I was a young mom, you know, all that stuff. And I was like, I finally get my Luke and Leia because yes, before I knew what shipping was, I wanted Luke and Leia to be together. Then I find out that they're brother and sister. I'm like, ew. So it was like, so I was so happy to have that. So to get Obi-Wan Kenobi, and my heart's always been a Vader girl. I mean, just obviously my crochet pillows like right behind me. And so, you know, to have those, and I always said I wanted a moment between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader leading up into A New Hope, because you get this conversation in A New Hope with them, right? Then you get the follow-up conversation in Return of the Jedi with Luke and Vader, right? He's like, Obi-Wan once thought as you do. Like, it's like, okay, well, where is this coming from? Like, you want that, right? So for me, we got that. And I was so happy to have that moment. So I want to thank Deborah Chow for that. Because I know, I'm not going to say anything more than that. I know there were certain people in the ranks that were like, yeah, that kind of thing has been done already. You don't want to really do that. Not with him, but with other characters like, you know, Ahsoka. But it worked for me. You know, that's where my heart is. So, you know, I loved Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
We
how
all
I feel
feel that
about
way.
it. Because for me, out of the Disney films, Rogue One hit me the hardest.
Yeah.
In so many ways. And I think, again, a personal thing. That was the last Star Wars film I saw in theater with my mother before she was diagnosed with cancer and before she passed. So I think that's why it really resonates with me more than anything. But the characters, you know, for once we had such sacrifice to lead to victory, because without them doing what they did, there is no room for Luke and Leia to do what they do. They kind of pave that path. It's so I'm just amazed that we're even getting these stories at the level that we're getting them.
Well, and you know, in some of the stuff that we advertised over the course of this week leading up to this show, you know, there's not been a year like this in Star Wars, in the history of Star Wars. The amount of stuff that we've gotten, books, animation, comics, TV shows. Like, first of all, TV shows, period. The word Star Wars TV show was not a thing when I was a kid. Like, what are we talking about? So the fact that we've had this unprecedented year in the history of Star Wars,
I agree.
And we're getting all of it, and every bit of it hits a different person. What hits me doesn't hit James. What hits James doesn't hit Becca, doesn't hit Pete, doesn't hit Chris. That's the beauty. And I think that's also the genius of George Lucas. And we talked about this with Greg Grunberg the other night, to bring it up for a minute. He talked about genius in creation with whether it's somebody like Lucas, whether it's somebody like JJ, who's his, childhood best friend. The staying power and the longevity to create a property that is this big, has this many threads and tendrils, that then other creatives, whether it's Claudia Gray, whether it's Kylo, whether it's, Jon Favreau, whether it's Dave Filoni, these people get to grab those threads, pull that thread, and make their own quilt. And so all of a sudden we've got this tree, and we've got this Star Wars map that literally has something for everyone. Pete, you're the one that goes, windows and doors. Jack's entry point is not what my Harper's entry point is, which is not what, it truly is brilliant on every level. The fact that there's something there for everybody. And if the one thing doesn't work for me, if I disagree with James about Book of Boba Fett and he disagrees with me about Andor, we'll have our Canada, Alabama Duke out, but it really won't matter, because at the end of the day, there's so much more left, and there's so much more coming. And that's the other thing. It truly is. It couldn't be a better time if you like Star Wars on any level.
Well, let me put it this way, James, when heard about the Disney acquisition and Disney Plus coming, first of all, we expected to be getting new movies every year. But now we're getting, next year we have 3 series coming. We had 3 series this year. Is it too much? Is it living to the expectations? How do you feel about it? As you and I have talked a lot about growing up as Star Wars fans, and if you told 10-year-old versions of us that this was where we were going to be, you'd laugh, because there's just no way. How do you feel about where we are now? Because the fact, and it's so interesting, I'll throw into that for you to consider as you answer, just the divergence of people who like this and not that, and compare this to that. Just the big question. I threw 40 questions. I just let you talk. I'll shut up now and let you go.
I think 10-year-old me would be ecstatic right now. I had Ewoks and droids. And I think I've said this on every show I come on. I've seen Ewoks on Ice Capades, and it was the greatest day of my life.
Love it.
Look, but I think, Pete, I don't remember when we said this, but we said something that George Lucas, I don't know if he would have sold Lucasfilm had streaming been where it was 10 years ago. And whether that's a good or bad, I don't know, but I just don't know if he would have, because he wanted that Underworld show or whatever it was called, that show. And I think Andor took a lot of those scripts and took information from those, if I remember Gilroy said. But like he wanted, this is what he wanted to get to, and Star Wars was serialized, right? It was those old, the old stuff they watched in the theater that you go weekly to see. The concern I have, and I think we talked about this a month ago, is the theatrical experience of Star Wars. Because I don't think you can oversaturate Star Wars. You can, but I'm going to say you can't on Disney Plus, because I think it is serialized and it's meant to be. What we're getting now, I think, is George Lucas is probably like, what? This is what it is. He's like, jerks. So, but I think that's what it is. So, but the problem for me is going to be, what's going to make. Look, the 5 of us are going to go to the theater to watch.
Correct.
A Jar Jar Binks solo movie. Clearly,
that's right. Earliest opportunity.
First day. I'm going to do fanboys and steal a copy of that. But what's going to cause the Avatar audience right now? Because I'm so I haven't seen Avatar. I'm not an Avatar guy. I have nothing against it. Whatever. But that should be Star Wars right now, right? I look at this, I'm like, why is this not Star Wars? How did James Cameron do this? And Star Wars is like, we don't have anything. The problem for me is you have all this stuff on Disney Plus. What is Rogue Squadron sound like a great idea, but why would the average audience, general public, want to go see Rogue Squadron when they can stay home and watch Mandalorian and Baby Yoda? What is good? That's the concern I have with Disney Plus shows, is taking away from that event. It's got to be an event.
Sure.
The event film in the cinema is such a I know Pete, you're such a Rise of Skywalker guy, but like that's the last time we've got, right? And that wasn't like, whether you like it or not, getting to that point was an event, right? You made an event to go see it. And my concern with the Disney Plus shows isn't the oversaturation there. It's taking away from that event that we're going to get on the big screen. And I'm sure people smarter than me are coming up with ideas to get, not me to get to the tickets, but my wife and kids.
You bring up a great point, because Marvel, the Marvel movies have not been as successful. Wakanda Forever, which was supposed to kill it just like Black Panther did well, but it didn't crush it. And how much of that is because of the the oversaturation, the opposite of dearth. I should go do my SATs again. But the opposite of dearth, the oversaturation of Marvel content. Yeah, why run to the theater? And honestly, like, I've gone to see all the Marvel movies because I enjoy them in the theaters. But I could have probably watched Doctor Strange at home and been all right with it.
And that's you hit a couple of points that I was going to chime in on what James was saying, talking about, I've been the one to voice out loud, and whether it was on this show or whether it's in a text with you and I, Pete, or whoever, I've had those moments where I've gone, do I need a movie theater experience because of everything that I'm getting, live action, whatever. The reality is I still do. And the thing that reminded me of it, because I make the joke, I'm a dad, I have 4 daughters. It's not convenient to go to the movies most any time.
Right.
So unless it's a Star Wars, which I will always go see a Star Wars in a theater at my earliest possible convenience, or if it's a big Marvel movie, I didn't go see Eternals. I didn't go see, but like my girls love Thor. So Love and Thunder was going to happen in the theater. We did go see Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. Being at Wakanda Forever and having the audience reaction moments. And if you've seen the movie, the post-credit scene, seeing, those moments where they honor Chadwick Boseman, like the crowd reactions, those were those moments where I stopped and went, oh yeah, this is why I want to see a Star Wars movie in the theater. I want to have that communal experience for everybody to gasp, for everybody to cheer, for everybody to have that connecting point. Like, I still do want that, but I'm not mad that I'm getting everything else I'm getting from the comfort of my home.
Right.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. I have to add to that, because being at Celebration and being together with a crowd to watch the panels and to see what's coming, and that excitement all around you buzzing, and some people getting all excited and tears, and it's like, okay, see, we're missing this. We don't have this unless we spend all this money, fly all around, and where you can spend a lot less to go to the theater.
Sure.
For sure.
And I do miss that. I do miss the excitement of waiting to get in, and the talking with some stranger, but yet all of a sudden you're like kindred spirits because you're there for Star Wars. I do miss that. But working, I work 4 days a week, but I work 10-hour shifts. Yeah, I've been up since 5 o'clock today, so I'm really tired. But that said,
doing great, Becky.
I'd like to be able to come home and thanks. Long as I can coherent, that's good. But I'd like to be able to come home and turn it on, and if I need to pause it because I need to do something or get something, I can do that. Yeah. And then go back and I don't miss anything. It's a beautiful thing, and I can rewatch it. What did they say? What did I miss? I can rewatch it. Yep. When you go to the theater, it's playing. You can't stop anything. It's there. It's happening right now. So I think I'm not trying to be cynical like Luke or anything and be that old person that I am. But yes, I do miss the theater because I know my son is just like, he wants something to land in the theater for Star Wars, because as he likes to say, well, I didn't have what you had growing up. I didn't get to see a film in the theater every 3 years. I'm like, but look at all you got.
Yeah. Right.
Now a lot more. It's right at your fingertips. I didn't have that. I had to wait, before VHS and CDs or DVDs, whatever. But yeah, Disney Plus is awesome.
Yeah. Well, as we're coming to the end of this show and the end of 2022, I'll start with James, and we'll all wrap it up with what we're looking forward to most from what we know, whether it's books, comics, television, animation, which is television, live action versus animation. We know what we know for sure, right? Is we know we have have Ahsoka. We know we have Bad Batch starting in a couple days. We know
Yep.
we have Mandalorian season 3. We're pretty sure
Visions.
Skeleton Crew is coming. Visions 2 is coming. James, what's at the top of your list?
I want to say Skeleton Crew is Ahsoka. Ahsoka is up
Ahsoka's
there.
this year as well.
Mhm.
Yep.
Acolyte, is that Acolyte coming this year? Does anyone know?
I'm gonna
don't-
bet against it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, against okay. So Skeleton Crew, I want to say is number one, but let's be honest, it's Mandalorian. Give me some Grogu.
Aw.
It's kind of like I love Book of Boba Fett. You can't let's not pretend I'm not gonna be all in on Mandalorian. I could try and say I'm looking forward to something else more, but we know why lie? Why lie to myself? Why lie to, it's gonna be Mando season 3. I don't know. I don't know where they're gonna go with it. I have an idea. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. And like you said, this year was crazy. We're only going to get more and more. Every year is going to be the most Star Wars we've gotten, and that's what I'm excited to do. I'm excited to listen to you guys talk, to watch other shows, to talk about my show. Just like Star Wars, this is what we love.
Yep.
Let's embrace it and have fun with it. We're not going to like it all,
Yep.
but that's what I'm looking forward to. Is just filling myself up with some Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Chris, what's on top of your list, bud?
Star Wars Jedi Survivor. That video game I'm definitely looking forward to. Ahsoka. All of them. You know me. I can't pick a favorite. I love it all.
Right.
I love like when Becca, when you were talking about getting
like your
excited to go
kids.
to a theater again. I get excited. I get that same excitement that I had going to see Return of the Jedi and Empire and all that. Whenever anything releases for Star Wars, be it the books, be it the comics every week. So I get that every week. I'm sated. I'm good. But I would say for the series, live action series, Ahsoka hands down. Mando, I'm very excited for, but Ahsoka, I love the Rebels crew. I love that story. And if they're doing what I think they're doing, I am so there.
Same.
There are definitely some comics I'm looking forward to, Son of Staros, and seeing the conclusion of Charles Soule's Crimson Dawn trilogy, because I think this does link into the end of the sequel trilogy. I think there's a recording. I think there are two hooded figures that are learning about this story. They're being told about this story from one of a recording from one of Kira's associates, and I think they're talking to Rey and Finn. I really do. So I'm real excited to see where that goes. I hope that that's the case. Yeah. And Red Blade, that novel from Delilah Dawson.
You know, Moni G has been hanging out with us all night. And Moni, I hope you're subscribed and hanging out with us as often as you can. She's been commenting all night. So good to see you hanging out with us. She said she's excited about Bad Batch because it's next. And you know what? In the world that we live in for Star Wars, how great is it that I'm with you. Like, I can't believe we're less than a week away from another Star Wars series. We're going to get over an hour of Bad Batch in 5 days. And I am so excited about that. Jasmine says Live Chopper and Ahsoka. When those of us that were
Live
there,
Chopper came out on the stage.
Live Chopper came out on stage. Holy, that was a moment for sure. Becca, what do you look forward to? I know you have a pulse on not just but books and things. What's kind of top of your list? And it can be anything.
Other than what I mentioned about books, well, Bad Batch, I can't say anything, but I know it's great, and that's how I'm gonna leave it. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone else react to it like in real time. So I'm just excited. For me though, I think Ahsoka is number one on my list. I know there's a lot of heart going into that. Which I think we all know, I mean, ever since she came onto the screen in 2008, right? And it was hard because at first, for the most part, and I know I can probably speak for most of the fandom, we weren't all too thrilled about, the Sky Guy comment. Anakin even having a Padawan? Like, what are you talking about? Never had a Padawan, you know? And then all of a sudden, after a little while and time goes by, all of a sudden you love this kid, right?
Yep.
And she grew up alongside of my 3 kids. So I feel like she's a part of my family in a sense.
Yep.
I'm just excited to see her on this journey and where we're going to go. I'm excited to see Chopper again. I'm excited to see the whole Ghost crew, you know, and how they're going to do that, right? Like, especially like Zeb. Is Zeb still there? Are we going to see Zeb? Like,
Yeah.
how are they going to pull that off, right?
Yeah.
I'm really just.
And by the way,
again,
Mrs. Obi-Wan Kenobi as Hera.
but that's not confirmed.
Okay,
So
yes,
I
it
don't,
is.
I don't comment
It
on
came
that
out.
yet.
It came out. No, it came out the other week. It was.
Was it
pretty sure
confirmed?
that was. Yeah, I think it was confirmed.
Who
I
though?
think
Who confirmed it?
Yeah. Now, don't. I'm sorry. Don't
See,
make.
I
me
think
I think it was.
James confirmed it. James from Rebel Scum Podcast.
James did it.
confirmed
I mean,
We
we're
have all
gonna
the
have
all the
here.
info in Canada. It comes here
Hashtag
first
Canada
before it
confirmed.
makes its way down.
Okay.
Hashtag Canada
I mean,
confirmed.
we are going to have a Hera, obviously. I mean,
A
we're gonna
Hera,
go
yeah.
through, right? But
Okay.
but
Yeah.
does that mean we're going to get Jason?
I think
Wouldn't it
James.
be cool. Sorry, I know there's people out there thinking, "Oh God, really?"
Listen, I'll nerd out for 1 second. I think we get Jason because I think we're also going to get a Rey, Finn, Grogu episodes of Star Wars in theaters with Jason as a Jedi going with them.
Yep.
See, I think that's
Grogu's
cool.
the villain. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Grogu the villain? Oh
Oh,
my
no.
god!
I've been saying that since the first season. I'm
Yes.
Grogu the Destroyer. Wait for it. I'm
I'm all about
Grogu
going
the
back
Destroyer.
I
to
love that name.
Yep.
now that we
Yep.
know Grogu
That's a
was
T-shirt. Make it
there
happen.
Yeah.
during the whole Order 66.
Yeah.
I want to know his story, like more than the
Yes.
flashback. I want to know who rescued the baby
Yeah.
and why. And why.
And why?
There was something obviously very important about Grogu.
I'm still
Oh, yeah.
sticking with he's a Yoda clone, and I'm going to go with that until I'm proven.
He's
false.
adorable.
He's adorable. Yes.
I was like, look at this.
I want to
adorable
see
thing.
the baby.
Yeah.
Star Wars had a baby.
Can I jump in for a second? And
No.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, of course.
Ahsoka, because we're all excited about Ahsoka, clearly.
Yeah.
And like the Ghost Crew, and we're all talking about the Ghost Crew, but my wife doesn't know what a Ghost Crew is, and she's gonna watch Ahsoka. And I'm really interested to see how they're going to work in the animated stuff for the people that didn't watch it, because you've got to do it in a way, right, where you're gonna have to let Mandalorian fans are gonna watch this. They don't watch the cartoons, right?
But they did a
I'm
great
really
job
curious.
of. Yeah, they did a great job of bringing in Bo-Katan. They did a great job of bringing in
Yeah.
Ahsoka.
Oh, great.
Without.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not doubting that they're going to be able
Right.
to do it. I'm excited to see how they're going to
How
do
they
it.
do it.
That's what.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
Yeah,
you know
I wanna see how-
they'll. I think they'll bring him in. However, they're going to bring them in as almost like their live action introduction, and then those people that are more invested in those characters to get interested in those characters can just go back and watch them in the animated show.
It's honestly,
yeah.
it's the same version of what Pete and I talk about both all the time because our lives run so parallel, it seems. When Ahsoka showed up in Mandalorian in live action, and both of our dads called us and went, "Yeah, that Jedi with the 2 lightsabers, she was cool." And we're both going, "You have no idea." Like it happens. It works.
Yep.
And they name drop Thrawn. And we're gonna get calls from our dads that go, "I thought the blue guy in Book of Boba Fett was scary. This guy's got red eyes. He's even scarier." Like, it's gonna be a thing, and it's just gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait.
Yeah. I got to say something about that. When we got that name drop in The Mandalorian from Ahsoka about, where's your master? Where's Thrawn?
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, and, people keep saying, well, are we going to see Thrawn? I know there was a question, are we going to see Thrawn in theater? Or, my thing is, will we see Thrawn in Ahsoka in the Disney Plus series? Because she's obviously, we know just from the Mandalorian, she's looking. We also know from the finale of Rebels, she's looking, because the last time Ezra was anywhere, he was with Thrawn. And all I got to say to that, again, books, read Thrawn alliances, because there's only one person, and I know he's not with us anymore in the living force, but he is with us in the Force realm that could actually probably be the only individual to help Ahsoka, because as I say, I've read a few things, so I know a few things.
You know some things.
I is nodding like, I know where you're going.
I predict
Yeah.
we get thrown in a post-credit scene at the end of Mando season 3 to lead us into Ahsoka.
Oh, I love the thought of that.
Yep, I think that works.
I love it.
That's my
I'm
thing.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Totally works.
Yeah.
we could speculate for until the shows start. So, but I just want to. We're coming up here. It's been a phenomenal night of talking about all things Star Wars with great people. So good to have all of you with us. Becca, before we let you go, tell us where people can find you, because for those people like me who don't read every book, our favorite podcast, because I hear and sometimes it inspires me to pick up a book that I haven't read, and sometimes I'm like, okay, now I know enough about it, so I'm good. But where can
So I
people
don't
find
have
you?
For right now, I'm trying to migrate over to Hive Social, and it's the same handle at URAngelB. That's where I'd be. Twitter at URAngelB. Tarkin's Top Shelf, you can follow that at Tarkin's Top Shelf, and we're on Facebook, Instagram. It's on Hive, and also on Twitter, and sometimes we do YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel there too as well. But yeah, best place for me personally, if you just want to say hi, is on Twitter or Facebook at Becca Benjamin.
Awesome. And James, tell us about Rebel Scum Podcast.
No.
Okay. Thank you, James.
It is.
Well, it was good having you.
I don't want to shock anyone, but it is a pod. It's one of the few Star Wars podcasts out there.
They're hard to find. They are.
They're hard to. There are very few. We're a podcast and a YouTube channel. We've been doing it. We're going on to our 7th year of.
It's amazing.
It's kind of crazy that we do it, and it's, you know what, we just have fun, and I don't know, we like what we like, we don't like what we don't like, and we move on, and it's a good time. And we met you guys through it, and it's honestly, it's Star Wars. Like, it could be a lot worse. Anyways, Rebel Scum Podcast. Check us out on the podcast thing and on YouTube, and it's a good time.
Awesome.
Star Wars, not Rebel Scum. Star Wars is a good time.
Well, no, Rebel Scum is fun, and I'm apparently I'm like Santa Claus at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I show up on Rebel Scum every. That's where I end up.
love that.
I won't talk to you for another year. I'll see you.
No, I'm gonna go hibernate, and we'll talk.
Yeah. The next time I'm out of town for Thanksgiving, we'll call James again.
Yeah, we'll call James again. But so James and Rebecca, thank you guys so much. I'm gonna let you go. But thank you for hanging out with us tonight and making this a lot of fun. And Happy New Year to all of you. And we'll definitely talk to you both after the new year.
Absolutely.
Happy New Year. Thanks, guys.
Happy New Year. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Gentlemen, that was a fantastic. It's so funny. You go in, you think you know where you're going to go with the show, and it just ends up being so much more fun than you expected.
Absolutely.
But one of the things we didn't talk about, Nick, is
yes, sir.
3 of us met each other in person for the first time.
IRL, as the kids say.
IRL in California. It's amazing. It's almost a year ago. It's almost a year since Celebration. And Nick, you put something together for that. Do you want to run a short little video for that?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw this out there. I put it together late one night early this week. We were talking about this show. I don't think we can put a 2022 Star Wars year in review out into the world without including Star Wars Celebration. It was the first celebration that has happened since Chicago, because of pandemic, because of all the things, like the special nature of what happened. I went to Celebration in Orlando for a day. I didn't know any of you idiots at that point. I literally started my podcast that summer after I got home. So 2017 to now, all that time. But we got to go, and like the celebration part of it was phenomenal. We got to go to panels. We got to go to the Kenobi premiere. We got to go to do all these other things. But the thing that made it for me was that I got to sit with the 2 of you on the back patio of the Hilton Bar and have drinks. And we hung out with Jason Fry, and we hung out with Ash Crossan, and we hung out with all these people. It was a family reunion, because over the course of pandemic, we all grew closer together because of social media, because of our shows, because of all the things that we've done. It really was the power that they ran I'm a sucker for a montage, and they ran a montage at the beginning of Celebration that covered all of the, hey, we're glad to be back. And it had clips from, the actors and all that stuff. So we can't leave this night without talking about Celebration. So I did put together a cheesy iMovie movie trailer Celebration with some stuff. I'm sorry that a lot of the pictures have my dumb face in it because they're the pictures that I took at Celebration. But this is what we've got. I'm going to run this, and then we'll get back to it after we get done.
You watch that and you just want to go back. Like I just like, and now I'm like,
seriously,
I'm gonna go to London now because of you. I'm gonna go. I'm
That's
gonna
right.
sell a
Ruined it
kidney
for
and I'm
everybody.
gonna go to London. But no, honestly, I think that was the thing, and I think I will say this about Celebration. Everybody told me, everybody said it's an experience you'll never forget. All of the shitheads from social media don't show up. It's just a pure love fest, and I will tell you, it was that and more. And the thing that I loved about it, the one I have in there, that you have in there, one is the picture with Fanboy Cantina, who you and I were walking by him. I think it was after lunch. We were going back into and he was like, "Hey, Nick," and he stopped us, and it was like, "Holy cow!"
Wild.
Somebody we know who we've never even we never saw each other's face until that moment.
Correct.
And the picture of you and I with Nick from Bayside from Thank the Maker.
Yes.
What I love about that is the funny thing about a funny little story. First of all, if you're not listening to Thank the Maker, you have to listen to that podcast.
You should.
It's a weekly deep dive into whatever show was there, whatever happened that week, and just great guys. Two of them happen to be bass players, which is very important to me and Nick as bass players.
I was we are also bass players.
But what I didn't realize is like Bayside, I had heard of them as a band, but I was never really a fan. And then I got to know Nick through Star Wars, and I got to know that Bayside's kind of a big deal. And then Nick from Bayside was just Nick from Star Wars talking, his podcast, and we hung out. Is that like there was none of the pretense of being a major musician. It was just a guy who was a Star Wars fan. And I think that was what was so great about Celebration was it didn't matter if it was somebody you've never met before, somebody you followed on social media, somebody who followed you on social media. The meetings, none of them were awkward, right? None of them were.
And even to pile onto that, my two versions of that were Pete and Alex from Star Wars Minute. Probably the first Star Wars podcast I listened to. They were hanging out on the back porch of the Hilton Bar one of those nights, and I grabbed a picture with them. And Alex has been on my show a couple times, and I was like, "Oh, I get to meet these guys that not heroes, but like I looked up to them as podcasters and as whatever." The other one was our mutual friend Ash Crossan, the Star Wars daddy herself. Like she worked for Entertainment Tonight. She does again. She hosted panels at Celebration. She's hanging out at the bar. It was her boyfriend's birthday, and she was like, "Hey, buy me a shot." let's take a picture together. Like, we're all there together for the same reason. We're all there because we love Star Wars. I literally spent 4 hours on the back patio of the Hilton Bar with Chris, while other people were like, we're going to go do this and we're going to do that. And we're like, we're too old for that. We're going to hang out and we're going to have drinks and we're going to talk. Like,
I'll be over here.
It was the family reunion that I didn't know I needed. But like, if I had never walked into that convention center and I got to do crazy cool stuff, we got to go to the Kenobi premiere, we got to go to other panels, other things. If all I had gotten to do was go to California and hang out with y'all, I would have been completely fulfilled. It was truly special.
And I remember when Chris
and we've got friends in the chat. Brian Fry is here. You know, same thing. Brian Fry was there.
Oh man.
You know, Becca was there. Like, we got to meet these friends. Christina was there. She was on with us earlier. Like, it really was. It was Star Wars family reunion, especially over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was really fantastic. And for those of you who are going to London, I'm envious and I can't wait to see all your pictures, and I'm excited. And as Brian and Jeff are talking about in the chat, they're looking to try. We're all hoping that it's in Orlando, a little East Coast action for 2024.
Philadelphia would be fantastic.
Philly would be even better. Yep, I would be fine with that. And you guys, Nick, you'd have a built-in place to stay.
Yep.
But it was really fantastic, and think about that. This was Star Wars Celebration on top of 3 live-action series, 3 animated series, a pile of books, more comic books than you can read, so much stuff. It was a fantastic year for Star Wars. I mean, Chris can read it because, you know,
more comic books than you'll ever read.
Right. Everything that came out this year is equal to more than I'll
yeah,
ever
one
get
comic
to.
book. That's more than I've.
You mean a whole comic book?
One?
That's
a whole 22 pages.
I got nothing better. Can I do that? It was a great year, and we're really excited about 2023. We have a lot going on here on the streaming Star Wars network. We have Force Connect every Friday, some combination of me, Chris, and Nick every Friday. We want you, if you're watching right now and you didn't dial in to call in, it is our request that next week, dial in, give us 2 minutes.
Call in.
Tell us what you're thinking, because next week, as we said, we're going to have a new Star Wars show to talk about. There's going to be a week of internet drama to talk about. There's going to be a week of inevitable rumors and news that we want to talk
Other
about
comics
here.
that Pete and I haven't read, something to
Plenty
talk
of
about.
great content that Chris and Nick and I are too lazy to read.
There's only one comic book next week. You guys can read that.
Oh, really? Just one?
Oh, yeah.
I could
just
do that.
one.
Which one is it?
It's Star Wars number 30.
Oh, it even says Star Wars on it. I mean, how hard could that be? But we want you to join us for the ride. Around the Galaxy is your show for sort of getting to know the people behind the fandom. We want you to hang out with us there. Go listen to the Greg Grandberg interview if you haven't yet. It is so much fun. Podcast the Wills, taking a deep dive into all things Star Wars. And you know, we have just so much going on. We're so excited. And, you know, I have to say, if you like those logos, if you like these things here, we have them on t-shirts already, and they're on sale this weekend only.
That's right.
But you can go get that right now. We're not just about the t-shirts. We are shills, and we are willing to do that. But Chris, tell us a little bit about what's coming out from the Bro Axiom group next week.
Cool. Well, no shooting the poodle this week because, you know, the whole New Year thing going on. Star Bros just dropped a new episode, and it's a festive one. They're talking about death and funerals in the Star Wars universe. But it still was a fantastic episode. So that's out right now, both on our YouTube channel and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Let's see. This week we do have one quick shot, which will be it's a Star Wars comics preview show, and I'll be doing Star Wars number 30 from Charles Soule. Let's see what else we have going on this week. Well, Poodle will be back next week.
Okay.
So make sure you watch that. But yeah, I think that's it. Oh, and of course BX Gaming, Braxton Gaming with Dan and Roke, and they play on Tuesday nights. I think they're still doing God of War. So they'll be I think Dan is driving the car, but Roke is doing the one playing. So Dan's getting to experience the game without having to play it. So they'll be doing that, and you guys should definitely tune in and check that out.
Awesome. And Nick, you had a special guest this week. Who is it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a Podcast of the Whales episode dropping this week. Darth Chaco, Brandon, a lot of y'all know him from Twitter and the Twitter sphere. Great presence, great conversation. We had a lot of fun. That'll be dropping in the streaming Star Wars Network feed this week. We're going to do that one. I've got another one in the can, and then we're going to start kind of making that transition that you were talking about a little bit, Pete, where, you know, Around the Galaxy is going to kind of make that move into Nick and Pete doing some interviews together. Podcast of the Wheels, we're going to dig deep into whether it's canon study, whether it's guests, returning guests, digging into what is their favorite big thing. Like, we're making those shifts and those moves in this new year, and I'm excited about it. But this coming week, this on Thursday, Darth Chaco, and I can't wait for y'all to hear that. It's a fun conversation.
Awesome. And I will make a rare appeal to say, listen, if you are enjoying what you're hearing on the streaming Star Wars network, if you're enjoying Around the Galaxy Force Connect podcast, The Wills, tell people about it. Get them to join us. This is I think we're building a nice little community, a nice little family here of people who have a very unique and sort of at times old school approach to Star Wars. And I think we're having a good time with it. And we would love it if you could go check out our Facebook page and share to your Facebook friends, because your Facebook friends are probably the ones who are more likely to be into what we're doing here. So join us there. Join us wherever you are. Consider joining our Patreon program for as little as $3 a month. You could have been in the Greg Grunberg interview. Ask anybody who was there.
Calling out. He called them out himself, calling out comments in the chat.
Yes. So we will be doing that. We'll be doing meet and greets with our guests as we go into the new year. So lots of great stuff. Check out patreon.com/streaming Star Wars, streamingstarwars.com. And that's where you can get our merch as well. I am done selling stuff. Nick and Chris, Happy New Year, brothers. And
Happy New Year to you.
Nick, may the force be with you.
Yes, sir. Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.